I am Alina Vance, a woman of 34 years, and I've called Savannah, Georgia home for my entire life. My world is built on the cobblestone streets, under the weeping willows draped in Spanish moss, and most importantly, around my family. I'm a loyal daughter, a doting aunt, but more than anything, I am a fiercely protective older sister. My sister, Sarah, she's 10 years younger than me and the light of my life. She's kind, gentle, and sees the best in everyone, even when they don't deserve it. It's a quality I admire in her, though sometimes I wish she'd grow a thicker skin, especially when it comes to certain individuals. My life in Savannah, managing a small antique shop just off River Street, is usually peaceful, filled with the scent of old wood and the murmur of tourists. But recently, a dark cloud has settled over our family, a shadow cast by one woman, my sister's mother-in-law, Martha Hayes. The problem started with Sarah's wedding day, a day that should have been pure joy, a celebration of love. Sarah glowed in her lace dress, her eyes sparkling with happiness as she prepared to marry her sweet fiancé, Michael. But Martha, Michael's mother, saw things differently. She saw Sarah as an interloper, a thief stealing her precious baby boy, as she so often called him, even though Michael was almost 30. From the moment the ceremony began, Martha made it her mission to spoil everything. She whispered loudly during the vows, complaining about the catering she supposedly paid for she didn't, and made a scene during the reception, pulling Michael aside to rant about Sarah's family not being good enough. She even managed to accidentally spill red wine on Sarah's dress during the first dance, a stain that forever marred the memory of that moment. My sweet sister, ever the peacemaker, just smiled through the tears in her eyes, trying to make excuses for Martha's appalling behavior. But I saw the deep hurt in Sarah's soul, and it ignited a fire in me. I wanted to make Martha cry, to give her a taste of her own medicine, to show her what real pain felt like. But Sarah, being the angel she is, quietly begged me not to. "Please, Alina," she'd pleaded, her voice barely a whisper, "it's not worth it, let's just try to be happy." I loved my sister too much to defy her, but the seed of resentment, of a thirst for justice, was firmly planted in my heart. Martha Hayes had become my nemesis, and I was deeply unsatisfied with her getting away with ruining such a precious day. Life continued, but Martha's presence remained a festering wound in our family gatherings. Every birthday, every holiday, every casual dinner at Sarah and Michael's house became a minefield. Martha would criticize Sarah's cooking, disparage her choices in home decor, subtly undermine her confidence in front of Michael, and generally suck the joy out of every room she entered. I tried to honor Sarah's wishes for peace, but the anger simmered beneath my skin. Then came my nephew Leo's first birthday party, a huge event planned at a local park, and Martha, of course, was going to be there. This was my chance, I decided, to act without Sarah's explicit blessing, but also without her direct disapproval. I needed plausible deniability, a way to mess with Martha's mind, to subtly bully her without openly confronting her. I had no time to buy any special supplies, so I had to be clever, using only what was around me, my wits as my only weapon. At Leo's party, I put my plan into action, starting small, testing the waters. When Martha went to get a slice of cake, I accidentally bumped into her, causing a tiny dollop of whipped cream to land right on her perfectly coiffed hair. "Oh my goodness, Martha, I am so sorry," I exclaimed, rushing to dab at it with a napkin only to smear it. She glared at me, her eyes narrowed, but with everyone watching, she couldn't make a scene. Later, when she settled into a folding chair, I mistakenly moved her chair a few inches back while reaching for a toy, putting her right in the path of the blaring party speaker. She kept having to crane her neck and shout to be heard. I smiled sweetly and offered her a glass of the punch I knew was sickeningly sweet, while making sure the good iced tea was out of her reach. "Oh, I am so sorry, Martha. I thought you preferred the sweeter drinks," I claimed, batting my eyelashes. Each small act was met with a huff or a sharp look, but she couldn't prove anything. I had the satisfaction of seeing her increasingly agitated, but the bigger problem, her constant negativity, continued to plague Sarah. The more I tried these little jabs, the more Martha seemed to retaliate, not against me directly, but against Sarah, which was 1,000 times worse. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about Sarah's parenting skills or openly compare Sarah's efforts to other better mothers. Sarah, trying to keep the peace, would just shrink into herself. One particularly bad incident happened at Thanksgiving. I had spent hours preparing a traditional Savannah feast, and Martha, without batting an eye, declared my homemade pecan pie a bit too sweet, and then pulled out a store-bought monstrosity, insisting everyone try hers instead. I tried my subtle tactics again, making sure her plate was always missing a fork, or that she was seated next to my Uncle Joe, who was known for his long, boring stories about his stamp collection. But Martha, cunning as a fox, turned it all around. She started dramatically sighing and shaking her head whenever I was near, implying I was the one being difficult. She even managed to get Michael to scold me privately, telling me to be nicer to Mom. I felt a knot of despair tighten in my stomach. My efforts weren't solving the problem, they were making it worse. Martha was growing bolder, her subtle digs at Sarah becoming more frequent and pointed. Sarah started spending less time with our side of the family, trying to avoid conflict, and I could see the light dimming in her eyes. She started looking tired, stressed, and her usual vibrant energy was gone. I felt like a failure, like I was pushing my sister further away, further into Martha's suffocating web. My subtle revenge had done nothing but escalate the war, and Sarah was caught in the crossfire. It felt like all was lost and Martha was winning. The lowest point came a few months later. Sarah called me, her voice cracking, barely audible. Martha had somehow convinced Michael that Sarah was being wasteful with their finances, leading to a huge argument where Michael had sided with his mother. Sarah felt utterly betrayed and alone. "I don't know what to do anymore, Alina," she choked out through her sobs. "She's ruining everything, my marriage, my peace of mind. I just want it to stop." Hearing my sister, my sweet Sarah, so utterly broken, something inside me snapped. The small, subtle acts of revenge, the playful jabs, they were not enough. Martha needed to be stopped permanently. I couldn't stand by and watch her destroy my sister's life any longer. I realized then that my previous attempts were a failure because I was playing by Martha's rules, by the rules of plausible deniability. No more. I needed a plan that was undeniable, yet still protected Sarah from direct fallout, a plan that would expose Martha for the venomous creature she truly was, not just to me, but to everyone, especially to her precious son, Michael. I decided the upcoming Easter brunch, hosted by Michael and Sarah at their home, would be the perfect stage. It would be a large gathering, extended family, and even some of Martha's own friends would be there, people who only saw the charming, put-together facade Martha presented to the world. I spent weeks meticulously planning, researching Martha's life, finding her weaknesses, her vulnerabilities. I learned that Martha was incredibly proud of her son Michael's success, but even more proud of her own reputation within her social circles, particularly her women's luncheon group and her church choir. She cultivated an image of a benevolent, elegant matriarch. That was her weak spot. I remembered a story Sarah had told me about how Martha had years ago stolen a cherished family heirloom, a diamond pendant from Michael's grandmother, claiming it was her rightful inheritance. It was a vicious lie, and the grandmother had been heartbroken. Sarah had only told me in confidence, swearing me to secrecy, but now it was a weapon. My plan was risky, bordering on reckless, but it was the only way to truly free Sarah. The Easter brunch arrived, and the air in Sarah's beautiful Savannah home was thick with the scent of lilies and baked ham. Martha, resplendent in a pastel suit, held court in the living room, surrounded by her adoring friends, painting herself as the perfect mother and grandmother. I, on the other hand, was outwardly calm, mingling, offering compliments, playing the part of the dutiful sister-in-law. When it was time for the Easter egg hunt for the children, I made my move. I approached Martha with a bright smile. "Martha," I began, my voice sweet as Georgia peach pie, "I was just thinking, since you are such a wonderful storyteller, perhaps you could tell little Leo and the other children the story of Great-Grandma Hayes's diamond pendant, the one she wore at her wedding. I heard it was such a touching tale, and Leo would love to hear about his family's history." Martha's smile faltered, a flicker of panic in her eyes. The diamond pendant, the one she had stolen. Everyone present knew the story of the pendant, but they only knew Martha's fabricated version of how she had inherited it. I had planted the seed, now I just needed to let it grow. Michael, hearing my suggestion, innocently chimed in, "That's a great idea, Mom. You always tell the best stories. The kids would love that." Martha was trapped. She couldn't refuse without looking bad, especially to her friends. She launched into a hesitant, muddled version of the story, her usual confidence replaced with an uneasy tremor. She spoke of the pendant being passed down, subtly implying it came directly to her. I waited patiently. As she rambled on, I subtly caught the eye of Aunt Carol, Michael's mother's sister, a woman known for her sharp memory and even sharper tongue, who also happened to be present. Aunt Carol, who had always been fond of Michael's grandmother, looked at Martha with a knowing, disapproving gaze. Then, at the opportune moment when Martha paused to take a sip of water, I cleared my throat ever so slightly, and with a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, I innocently asked, "Oh, Martha, isn't that the very same pendant that Great-Grandma Hayes cried so much over losing? I always thought it was so sad that she never got it back after it went missing that year." The air in the room instantly froze. Martha choked on her water, her face turning a furious shade of crimson. Her friends exchanged uncomfortable glances. Aunt Carol, seizing the moment, chimed in, "Indeed, Alina, I remember Grandma Hayes was heartbroken. She always swore it was taken, not lost. Funny, isn't it, how it suddenly reappeared around Martha's neck a few months later? The truth, a long-buried secret, was out. Martha's carefully constructed image shattered into a million pieces." Michael, his eyes wide with disbelief and confusion, looked from his mother to his aunt, then finally to me. The whispers began growing louder as Martha's friends started remembering the original, less flattering version of the pendant's disappearance. Martha tried to bluster, to deny, but her words were weak and ineffective. Her face was a mask of pure fury and humiliation. "This is a malicious lie," she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Alina, you spiteful witch," but it was too late. The damage was done. Michael, seeing his mother's true colors, her petty cruelty and deceit exposed for all to see, finally understood. He saw the same maliciousness I had seen at the wedding, the same cold disregard for others reflected in the eyes of his own mother. He turned to Sarah, a look of profound apology and regret in his eyes. The confrontation wasn't a physical fight, but a public unraveling, a dismantling of Martha's power and reputation that she valued more than anything. The aftermath was a slow but certain realignment of our family's world. Martha, utterly disgraced, found her social invitations dwindling, her friends suddenly too busy to attend her luncheons. Michael, deeply ashamed and heartbroken by his mother's deceit, finally drew a firm boundary. He apologized profusely to Sarah, realizing the depth of his mother's manipulation and how much pain she had caused his wife. Their marriage, once strained by Martha's interference, began to heal, blossoming stronger than ever. Sarah, relieved of the constant pressure, regained her sparkle, her laughter echoing through the house once more. Martha, though still part of the family in name, was effectively neutralized. Her attempts to interject her negativity were now met with polite but firm resistance from Michael, who no longer tolerated her behavior. She was relegated to the periphery, a forgotten shadow at family events, her voice unheard, her opinions dismissed. My sister was happy again, and that was my ultimate reward. Our new normal was peaceful. Sarah and Michael thrived, their love story finally able to unfold without Martha's toxic interference. My bond with Sarah, forged in fire, was stronger than ever. I visited her often, and the fear of Martha ruining our moments was gone. There was, however, one final, unexpected twist. Few weeks after the Easter brunch debacle, a package arrived at my antique shop. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, was a beautiful antique diamond pendant identical to the one Martha had stolen. A small card was attached, written in elegant script, "A gift with gratitude from a grateful family member." It was from Aunt Carol, who had clearly taken great satisfaction in Martha's downfall. The original pendant, of course, remained with Michael and Sarah, a painful reminder of the past. But this new pendant, a symbol of justice, of quiet victories, was a testament to the power of a sister's love and the sweet, sweet taste of revenge, served cold and sparkling like a dewdrop on a savannah morning. I smiled, feeling utterly fulfilled, knowing that some problems, even those that seem insurmountable, can be solved with a little courage, a lot of love, and a very clever plan.